Recording in progress.
Hello, this is my first video of instructions on learning chess. This one is going to be how to checkmate with a queen, and I have prepped the playing position, and we'll share my screen now. So the basic way I would think of is to think of the queen. When you click on it, you'll see the areas of influence that the queen has. It's almost like there's an invisible fence, or maybe you could even think of it like a physical fence, since the king can't even go into those regions. So the queen is the most powerful standalone piece, and what I'm going to suggest is that in the very first move is black to move here. There's different ways that you can checkmate with the queen. I'm going to show what I find to be the simplest. I think this works only with the queen because the queen is the only piece that the king can't approach from any square ever, because it would endanger itself. So my first move in this position is to move the queen, okay, to the center, one of the center squares. And what this does, I'll click on it again, you can see I think you'll be able to, well, no, maybe that's only when it's my turn, but anyway, so now you can hopefully can see the hand that I'm moving here. Now the white king's mobility is restricted to a very limited number of squares in the whole game. So you can see it can't approach the queen this way, can't go to this direction, and there's also the diagonal the queen is threatening, so it wouldn't be allowed to go there. In fact, if you try to go there, the chess app just brings it back to where it was. So you're basically, this white king is limited to at this point, of course, it only has 3 moves at the moment, but in terms of it's really very limited in where it can move on the board at all. So let's say that that the king, that might be a logical place to go to, because it's probably better than going to the very back of the last rank. But then we're going to do the same thing with the queen. Now the queen has cut off this line, so the king can no longer go back toward the file it just left, and then it could continue going along the same path, but if it does that again, it's going to be confined to the last row. So in this scenario, the white king moves away from the queen, but then the queen can just approach it 1 square at a time, and again you can see it now. It can't approach where it left, and it can't go back on the row, the bishop file there. So again, its choices were very limited. The queen is just, my strategies were just going to get the king to where it's stuck between 2 different squares. So at this point, then the queen, again, to prevent the king from getting back to the file that it just left, we're going to move it. So now from here on out, the king is confined to just this single file. So then again, we're just going to force it into the corner. Now be careful here. If you were to move the queen here, then you have created what's called a stalemate. A stalemate means if the king has no ability to move at all, it simply becomes a draw, but nobody wins. So you do always have to be wary and concerned to avoid that. So that means at this point the black king is going to come into the game, and the white king is stuck between rotating back and forth between the 2 squares, possible squares, as the black king approaches. And eventually what we're going to do is we're going to, and it's very, very soon now, the king is going to cut off the white king's last escape square. So right now, if the queen were to go and do a check here, then the king could escape onto the adjacent file. But instead, now the black king is cutting off that escape square, so that again, there's only a single move left, and there's actually one, two, three, four. There's actually 5 checkmate moves in this position. Because the white king has no escape here, any check is basically checkmate. The most like immediate would be this one, so there's no square, but this one would work just as well. And then this would be, I think that was one I selected. This would also work, and this would also work, because basically there's no way that the queen is affecting that, is threatening the king on that file, and it can't leave the file, so any move will do. So that was my conclusion to the game. So and like I said, there are other ways you can bring the king in much quicker, but to me this was the simplest illustration. The next video will be the king and rook ending, and you'll see on that one how the king must be much more involved throughout. So anyway, that's it for right now. Hope you enjoyed it.